Hello, everyone. I'm CEO of Fierce, and today we're on the Pulse Experience with Chantell Brandt. And what we're going to be examining is our very innovative coaching approach using biometric feedback to see how your body responds, what it responds to, but more importantly, getting underneath what is needed to move you into action. Chantell, welcome.
And when people are stressed, they tend to vent out their frustration on their friends, their children, partners. However, we fail to exercise caution. Our work-related stress may transition into our domestic lives, ultimately
Mhm.
causing harm to family and relationships.
Yeah, wow, that's so incredible, Chantel. I can't wait for us to unwind this. We see this a lot in the data and from the feedback that we're getting from people who've gone through the Pulse experience or the coaching experience. Like we get questions such as I'm sure you can recall, I was in yoga or doing pickleball and my fours or threes, which is our scale of stress, spiked. And people are so quick to want to discount that. But what you do a great job on, Chantel, and what our approach does is getting underneath that. And many times, what we find, as I know you know, is what's behind that. What was on your mind? What was happening before you went into yoga and had these high stress events? So,
Yeah.
Chantel, let's get to it. Tell us a little bit about your Coachee.
Sure. And you're so right. Because the Pulse app shows the user's stress levels on a scaling system of 1 through 4, my coachee was able to visibly see her stress levels spike during her drive to work and coming home from work. When people are stressed, they tend to vent that frustration, like I was saying earlier. And my coachee was in this exact situation, feeling overwhelmed and almost stuck at work. The stress was causing both physical and emotional symptoms to manifest themselves. And, that gradual and suddenly was taking place. She was beginning to shut down and isolate herself from others and from the people that matter most to her.
Yeah, wow, that's yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your Coachee. How did you engage her? What was showing up in her life? Like, how was her day to
Yeah.
day showing up?
Absolutely. It was quite amazing. But before, we talk about that day to day, let's talk about the loop that she found herself in. I want you to take a listen here. It's pretty staggering.
I know it's important to step away when you feel the need to do so, but right now I just feel like every day is like a day to step away.
I mean, are you kidding? Every day is a day to step away. To determine where the stress was coming from, we worked to isolate the cause and effect. Why was this happening? And for her, it was so disengaged at work that she was exhausted and she couldn't be present, and that
Mhm.
caused even more stress with thinking about having to participate in life.
Mhm.
It was stealing her peace of mind and her joy.
So Chantel. So let me understand this a little bit clearer. So in general, she was feeling overwhelmed, right? She wasn't having
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of accomplishment or engagement at work and at home. What was interesting though is her biometrics were showing when she was going through transitions from home to work life, her stress was spiking. And when she was coming home from work to home life, her stress was spiking. That is absolutely amazing. I'm so interested to understand how you as a coach pull that back, right?
Sure.
So there's that
Yeah.
awareness piece. So walk us through that. I'm so interested to see how you approach this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this takes us to Fierce's transformational idea number 3. It really is. All conversations are with myself, and sometimes they involve other people.
Hmm.
My coachee was creating a narrative, her own context filter of being stuck, with each day feeling like a repeat of being drained and disengaged. And that was causing her to act out in irritation and isolation, which then resulted in higher stress levels every morning and every night. So we really had to flip her context. What if she began to have choices and she could have, enjoy those choices? So take a listen to this clip. This is her what if.
It would be huge. They would, I would get to class a little earlier in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They might get their pre-work a few days earlier.
Uh-huh.
They might get a little fire under their belt to complete their assignments on time instead of me allowing them to go past due and take some personal responsibility. Have to take some of that personal responsibility.
Okay. I love that. And then as flip that back to you, what results would you enjoy by that taking place?
I think that they would definitely, send me those little notes of appreciation and thanks for covering me, or, thank you so much for having my back. Thanks for letting me, thanks for lighting that fire,
Absolutely.
mhm,
It's that context that you're building, right?
right.
If I'm feeling drained, then, what are those emotions? What are the behaviors? What are the actions and then the result? Versus if I'm feeling like my bucket is full, then
Mhm.
you show up same place. That professionalism moves it from a transactional to a transformational,
Right.
right? So I love that you got there. It's amazing.
That is
she
amazing.
she could really assess, what she wanted to do, where she wanted to work. She could feel empowered and confident and really, love what she does and where she does it. Her behaviors could be enjoyment and turning that from transformational or transactional to transformational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to explore that a little bit deeper because what you're saying and what we heard is so powerful, right? So you had a coachee who was, for lack of a better word, stuck, right, in these feelings, and you presented with her a exercise of what if, and really going through this exercise of possibilities. And I wasn't in the coaching session, but I could tell that there was a higher level of energy that came out of just thinking about possibilities, right? Tell us a little bit more about that. What happens when people go through this exercise? You say transformation, but what is happening to the person?
Yeah, they're seeing the possibilities, Ed, right? We all get excited about the possibilities.
Yeah.
If I can remove this stress, what will that mean for me? And it gives you hope. It gives you hope to work through the temporary discomfort that it takes. I mean, removing stress isn't as quick as snapping a finger. And yet the benefits are so worth it. Her family is at stake. And we can all identify with that. When we think about misplaced stress, how is it showing up and who's the end recipient? What she realized, and throughout this session, she's learning a lot about herself step by step. And throughout the session, listen to her insights here about herself.
My family isn't the only one suffering. I'm not the only one suffering. That I really thought that my clients were getting everything still, and they weren't. It's really impossible to give anyone your best when you're not feeling your best.
We had to work together through the accountability model to determine what was within her control. Because when stress overtakes you, you almost become a hostage to it.
Mm-hmm.
How was she going to take back her happiness? And then she determined that she had to have a conversation with her significant other. Her partner, the person she chose to do life with, was her support system. And she wanted to ensure that they were in lockstep with the choices that she needed to make, because there were some significant choices she was considering.
That is so interesting, Chantell. So she had so much stress in her life that she lost the ability to have, and I'll use your word, hope, or really think through the positive outcomes that could come. Do we see that happen with a lot of people who are stressed out? Is that common?
You're right. Absolutely. I don't know anybody who probably hasn't experienced this in one time or another. You know, when we get to this point, we don't kind of know which way is up. And when we think about the benefits of the Pulse app, that's truly it. We have the data. So as a coach, I have the data going into the session. I never had this before. You know, we can see the Coachee's dashboard, which gives us insights to all the stress events, plus they're linking to their calendars and their tagging. And this upfront knowledge helps me to guide the user out of that safe zone and really get underneath what's going on. You know,
Right.
in this case, I had a deeper knowledge that there's more to the story. You know, she was continuously receiving 4s on her morning drive and correlating 4s throughout each work day. The 3s she was having on the drive home weren't occurring on the weekends until Sunday night. So that tells me there's something else, right?
No, I was thinking, I think that's so incredible. In your conversation with her, for her to be able to raise her hand and say, this is what my significant other is here for. We're in a partnership. And let me bring up that I'm struggling. And I find that so fascinating because, for one, I think that's very hard to do, right? To say, hey, we need help, or we're struggling. Or what happens a lot of times that we find is people assume that someone else should notice, right? Like, you should see that I'm struggling, right? You should know. And I've been the first one to raise my hand and say, you know, I'm not a mind reader, right? So how do you say in a constructive way, I need help? So tell us more about that. So she engages with her partner, with her significant other, and says, I'm struggling. This is what's happening. So what happens, Chantell?
You know, it's funny that you say that because we are so nervous or scared or don't want to be vulnerable, even to those that we are most vulnerable with. Her scenario wasn't any different. You know, she thought that he would, you know, throw a stink and what does this mean for the family? And it was exactly the opposite. It was finally, you know, let's have that conversation. I'm here because it's not about the particular job or where you work. It's about you. And when you come home and you go straight to your room, you know, to our room and separate, that's not a way to live. And, you know, for him, it was almost not recognizing, you know, the person that she has become. And so he's been waiting for this and possibly not having the right words to say it. The amazing thing about Fierce, and once you go through and have a coaching session and you learn about having conversations and you learn about accountability, there's no going back. It requires you to show up differently in a conversation. You can't make those assumptions like, well, you should have noticed.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is. You have to use the voice. Use that voice to say, I need help. I'm struggling. Here's the problem I'm having. And I want to hear your perspective.
Right.
So it was amazing.
So Chantell, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, right? So after 2 weeks of looking at her biometric responses, one 90-minute coaching session with you, and from what I'm hearing, one conversation with her significant other, her life totally changed.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Tell us more about those results. I mean, this is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. You know, she loves what she does. She no longer loved where she was doing it. And so after that conversation with her significant other, she decided that she was going to leave the organization that she was working with and has gone to another one, still doing what she loves. And she's gained, you know, some of that life back. As a matter of fact, she even started back her side business that she had given up. So for somebody who was exhausted and miserable every day when she came home, now she has extra energy to start a second side business.
Wow. That is so incredible. And the part that I'm just so so kind of stuck on here is just the quickness, right? I mean, this is something that had been in the works and impacting her for quite some time, correct? And within a short amount of time, she was able to hit the relief valve, right? And onto a different trajectory in her life. That's incredible, Chantell. That reminds me of a story of one of our early Pulse users, and you'll recall this, Chantell. When you looked at his data, you were able to clearly see through your coaching dashboards that when he tagged his events as personal, he had a higher stress level, right? So date night with wife, watching kids, vacation with family versus his work interactions, which were lower stress. So on the surface, he thought that his home life was stressful, his interactions with his significant other weren't ideal, and he believed that as well, right? That was his context. And through the coaching exploration, we were able to find what was happening to him was happening to so many of us these days who work from home and all those other things, is that there's a bleed over between work life and home life. And this goes back to the boundaries. And he was able to quickly have a conversation with his boss to say, here's my availability, right between these hours, and his home life, which is to set those clear boundaries and time availability as well. If I recall, Chantell, his stress dropped, I think it was like 18% within like a week. And with your Coachee here, remind me, what did her biometrics look like after these interventions?
Ooh, it almost dropped by 23%, Ed. So I think she hasn't beat. She's now analyzing, the new stressors with the new job, because those come with stressors. But working through, she was at burnout, and, just recognizing that she had power in her choices and that she had support in making those choices was a game changer for her. It truly was. When we're in psychological threat, Ed, our brains begin to amplify and distort other situations in our life. Like, we begin to see everything and everyone as a cause of the stress. We become hostages. How many relationships are damaged because of this misplaced stress? This is about tackling the tough challenge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and having the extra additional data from the dashboard in our coaching conversation, that's where you begin to get that clarity and start to solve for those stressors.
Absolutely. Chantell, such amazing work. And I just want to underscore that because this theme pops up so much. It's misplaced stress. Or what we find, especially with, senior, more tenured people, is they accept stress from a general perspective. Oh, I already know I'm stressed, right? And then they go and they do typical management techniques like that help, such as let me run 6 miles, or in my case, as you know, Chantell, I try to ride my bike 30 miles a day to try to get it out, right? Or better diet, better sleep, meditation, all these things work, but they don't get down surgically to what your stressor is what you did an amazing job with your Coachee. Chantell, I want to thank you again for this incredible work. I want to thank you, audience, for listening to our sessions and the impact that we're making with our solutions and wonderful coaches like Chantell. If you'd like to go through the Pulse experience, please click the link in the description, and we're happy to set you up. Please use the discount code PulseExperience02, and we'll set you up with a discount here for early listeners. And other than that, until next time, thank you so much.